Good afternoon and thank you everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Court of Revision for the Bennett Drain. Attendance has been taken, noting that all members of the court are in attendance. The first item of business is the election of a chair for the sitting of the Court of Revision. Could I please have some nominations from the floor? Councillor Coleman.
Councillor Garneau, please.
Councillor Garneau, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations? Councillor Pearce.
Move to close.
Could I have a seconder, please? All right, all those in favor? Thank you. Councillor Garneau, you have the chair.
All right, thank you. So I'd just like to ask if there's any additions to the agenda. I understand the clerk may have one.
Yes. Through you to the court, there is an individual, I believe he has just joined on Zoom, Brian Van Dorman. He is looking to address the court and is looking to be added as 6-2 under communications.
All right, are there any further changes to the agenda? All right, seeing none, motion to approve. Councillor Coleman, Councillor Miller, all those in favor? Thank you. All right. At this time, I'd like to ask if any of the members have a pecuniary interest. Seeing none, if one does arise, just let us know. Next, we'll ask if there are any late appeals to be filed orally at the meeting. So if there's anyone here today who didn't submit something to the clerk in writing, but wishes to make an appeal to the court, could you just let us know, please? All right, I'll ask again. No one from the audience wishes to come forward and make an appeal at the meeting? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move along to item 6. Could I get a motion to receive item 1 as for information? Councillor Pearce, seconder. Councillor Coleman, and I understand Mr. Walton wishes to speak to this, the item from Burnside.
So after the filing of the report, there were a couple of issues that were noted in the report, which the engineer has agreed should be changed. I believe that the people were all notified, and we have received no comments on this. So what we're asking now is for the Court of Revision to consider these changes as part of the revised bylaw.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Walton? Councillor Miller.
Just to be clear, the changes affect 5 properties, correct?
I believe that's correct.
And I don't believe of the appeals today, any of those homeowners are on that. I don't think so.
I believe that's correct.
So cross-check.
Any further questions for Mr. Walton? All right, so we'll need to vote on to receive the item as information, and then we'll consider the substantive question we're asked. So all those in favor of receiving for information? Thank you. And then how does the court wish to proceed with the change from the engineer? Councillor Coleman?
Move to receive. Accept.
So we'd be looking for a motion to approve and amend the provisional bylaw, if that's agreeable.
Duly noted. How's that?
All right, thank you, Councillor Coleman. Seconder? Councillor McAlpine. Discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? and that carries. Thank you. So we're going to proceed with the appeals that we've received. Oh, my apologies, sir. On the Zoom, you want to unmute yourself, please, and address the court. Mr. Van Dormel, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have any appeals necessarily or comments against. I just wanted to be able to have an opportunity to speak in favor. So of the way the land was assessed, or at least my property was assessed, and feel it's fair and appropriate. So I just wanted to make sure that if any appeals were raised, that there's also an opportunity to show positive support.
Thank you. Do any members of the court have questions for our delegation? Councillor Miller.
Not a question, but just a comment. I appreciate the speaker's comments, and in the engineer's report, there's a lot of comments from the citizens, and the work needs to be done. And if you you read the comments, it's interesting. I'm glad the engineer put them in the report, but it talks about flooded basements, pads for buildings, barns, whatnot, upheaving, crops that can't be planted, things like that. So there's a lot of damage that happens from drains that aren't working properly. So it's good that information's in the report. It's good that information gets out. I'm glad we're doing something about it. And it's just a matter of when, I guess. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? All right. How do we want to proceed with the communication? Councillor Miller?
Yeah, move to receive.
All right. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pierce? Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. So now we are going to move forward to the appeals that have come in. Both will proceed in the same way. So what will happen is the engineer will first be invited to comment. We'll then call upon the appellant to present their case, and in closing, the engineer will be offered an opportunity to follow up in response to any comments raised by the appellant. After we've heard both appeals, the court will rise, we'll reconvene in the other room to deliberate, and then we'll return to either provide a status update or let you know our decisions. So let's begin with 261 Middletown Line Road, Anton and Joanne Neuenhusen. Did I get that? Thank you. So let's have the engineer, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jacob Rook. I'm here to represent RJ Burnside with the response to the appeals today. So the Neuenhuisen appeal. So this appeal is in regard to Section 22, the benefit assessment for Branch D. I'm just going to take a quick moment and read Section 22 from the Ontario Drainage Act, just to give reference to how we assess the property. So assessment for benefit from Section 22 states that lands, roads, buildings, utilities, or other structures that are increased in value or are more easily maintained as a result of the construction, improvement, maintenance, or repair of a drainage works may be assessed benefit. So keeping that in mind, all the properties that are abutting the Branch D extension, so the adjacent properties there to the red highlighted, which is the property in question, all received a benefit assessment of $2,500 for the provision of a direct connection, whether they choose to connect or not. The total estimated cost for the section of drain along property number 11 is $17,160, and the $2,500 benefit assessment works out to approximately 14.5% of those costs. The increased costs in the assessment that the appellants are referring to is due to a change in design after the information meeting. Burnside received a petition to extend Branch D through the property up until the Kennedy property. That's, I believe, number 9 on the watershed plan. Due to this change in scope and proposed work, the increased costs were occurred. As previously stated through Mr. Walton, the change in the construction assessment schedules for this property caused a slight decrease in assessment due to the increase on the west side of Middletown Line Road. And that would be our initial response to the Nieuwenhuizen appeal.
Thank you. Does the court have any questions for the engineer? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just questions of clarification to Jacob. So just to be clear, Branch D is going to cost $17,160 of that total 1.2 million.
Through you, Madam Chair, the entire Branch D cost is much more than that. I can pull up the actual numbers, but the section cost to construct on that individual property is the $17,160. I have that broken down for you as to what makes up that cost.
That's okay. So the Nieuwenhuizens they're responsible for that amount, 17,160.
No, sorry, they're responsible for so we've assessed a benefit assessment of $2,500 to the property, which works out to around 14.5% of the overall section cost to construct on their property.
And then they would also have costs for the main line as well.
Yes, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, or to you, Mr. Councillor, yes. They would have costs associated with the amount of drain that they're using through the system, but I believe the appeal was in response to the benefit assessment specifically to Branch D.
In the numbers that you showed in your report, these are after accounting for the, you mentioned there's a 25 to 30% increase in construction material. So that's after all. We think that's a fairly accurate number at this point.
Yes, to the best of our knowledge, this is the most accurate information that we have. We felt the need to update our cost estimate prior to filing the report due to industry changes that we were seeing.
Okay, and the last question, Madam Chair. Between this cost, the last one you gave, and the first initial one that the Nieuwenhuizen's seen, how much time elapsed there? It looks like about 2 or 3, well, maybe 3 years.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe the original information meeting for the Bennett Municipal Drain was in October of 2022, but I think the costs that the Nieuwenhuizens are speaking to are from, I don't have it offhand, but I believe middle of 2023 when we had our Branch D on-site meeting. And I'm going to try and provide a little bit of clarity to the increased costs that they're seeing. The majority of increased costs that they're seeing is due to the extension of Branch D. The original costs that were developed for the project for Branch D specifically only brought the drain up to property number 13 that you see on the plan. It's 2 properties south of the Nieuwenhuizens. So extending the drain through their property and adding that length increased the cost of Branch D, thus increasing their assessment.
I know he said last question. One other question, because I think it's in the Drainage Act, but if a municipal drain goes through a property, I mean, property owners don't have I guess they don't have the right to not be part of it.
Through you, Madam Chair, no, the assessments are based on the best judgment of the engineer with the tool provided to them through the Drainage Act. So this assessment that we've produced is our opinion of the most fair and equitable way to distribute the costs.
Okay, thank you.
Do other members of the court have questions? All right, seeing none, we'll ask the engineers to stand by, make note of any issues they wish to respond to, and we'll invite the appellants up to address the court, please. So, Mr. and Mrs. Neuenheisen, did you wish to speak to the court? Sorry, sir. I believe you'll be the next appeal there. 219 10th concession? Yes. Did the owners of 261 Middletown Line Road wish to speak to the court today? You don't have to, your letter can stand, but if you did wish to speak, you may. Yeah, come on up then, please. Thank you.
Hi, it's Joanne Neuenheisen. Just a question now with regards to the cost of the drain. The last estimate, it was over 9,000, and now you're talking about 14,000? I'm a little bit confused there.
All right, we'll have the engineer respond in a minute. We have an opportunity now for the court to ask questions of you. Do any of the members of the court have questions? All right, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to Mrs. Van Nieuwenhuizen. I'm just, in your letter, you said the price of branch D went up 400%.
The price of our estimate for what we have to pay for the drain.
Okay.
The original from, I believe, July 2023 was, I don't have the figures on me, over 2,000. And then it jumped up to 9,500, and now the cost up there was 14,000.
And is that just for drain
D and our portion of drain B? We have nothing against drain B. We know that needs replacing.
So your total bill would be 14,000 in change for both.
I don't know. That's my question. The last numbers we got was 9,000 something, and up on the board they were talking about 14,000.
Is that net or is that gross amount? Do you know? Don't know. Okay.
I wonder whether the engineers can just make note of that question when they come up to respond. Can clarify the figures, please. Thank you. Do any other members of the court have questions for our appellant? All right, seeing none, we'll call the engineers back up, please.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. I just have the assessment schedule up here, the updated version that we had sent out to the owners based on our proposed changes. And the Neuenheisen property has a total branch D assessment of the $6,190. $2,500 of that would be under Section 22 for benefit, which is how we understood the appeal. The section cost stated on the slide, that 17,000, I think that's maybe what we're referring to. That would be the estimated cost to construct the drain on their property. They're not responsible for paying that figure. They're responsible, or based on our estimate, they would be responsible for what's stated in the assessment schedule, which total for the main drain, branch B and branch D would be the $9,579. Oh, sorry, that was the previous report total. I have, updated numbers based on the quarter revision total. It was $9,516. Sorry, there was a $63 decrease. So again, I'll restate that the section cost that was stated on the slide is our estimate for the construction of the drain on their property, and they would be responsible for $2,500 as an assessment for benefit, and then the remainder of the assessment is under Section 23 of the Act for outlet. And I can restate any figures as I have them in front of me, if anyone would like.
Thank you. Does anyone need the engineer to repeat the figures? All right, seeing none, any further questions for the engineer? All right, thank you. So we will shift gears now to 219 10th Concession Road, go through the same process again before the court withdraws to deliberate. So if I could invite the engineers back up this time for 219 10th Concession Road, please. Oh, we'll just get the slides up there. Thank you.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. For the Oldroyd appeal, this appeal again was understood by us as an appeal to the Section 22 assessment for benefit to the property. The total estimated cost again, the section cost, the total cost to construct the municipal drain on the Oldroyd property estimated is $230,000. The benefit assessment to the property is $29,603. So this would be 13% of the section cost. So the remaining $200,397, or 87% of the remaining cost to construct on this property, would be assessed to upstream landowners under Section 23 as outlet. And speaking to the appeal, the original design was planning on utilizing the existing tile system through the property. And after the October 2022 information meeting, it was discussed with the Brant County Drainage Superintendent that the original tile through the property was in a state of disrepair, and we would not be, it wouldn't be in our best interest to reuse that pipe. So after learning this, we updated the design to be a 2-pipe system through the Oldroyd property. But however, after this, the Oldroyd property saw a increase in assessment. I believe it's stated in the appeal, but I believe it's close to $2,000. So the property's assessment did not double, even though we doubled the amount of tile that was being put in place on the property.
Thank you. Are there questions for the engineer? In a moment, sir, we just give the court a chance to ask the questions, and then we'll invite you up to speak. All right, Councillor Miller.
Just a question on the 13% through to Jacob. Jacob, that 13% is a 13% benefit because he has 13% of the property for that particular drain? Is that how you get to that?
So the benefit percentage is, sorry, through you, Madam Chair. The benefit percentage, that 13% that you're seeing, the assessments are split based on benefit and outlet. And so part of our job going through these assessments is trying to find an equitable, fair way to distribute the costs throughout the watershed. And on the Oldroyd property, we felt that a 13% benefit assessment, so that $29,603, was an appropriate benefit cost to the property. There are different ways that we can check that in some standard practices that we use to come up with those numbers, but using the Act as our guide and trying to find a fair way to assess that, that's the percentage of benefit that we came up with for the property. And I believe that the 13% reflects the fact that the entirety of the watershed drains through the Oldroyd property, so that is why we determined 87% of the total cost would be assessed to the upstream landowners.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Are there other questions from the court? All right, seeing none, we'll ask the engineers to stand by and invite the property owner up, please.
My biggest problem with this thing, we started back in 2021. Since then, my assessment has increased a lot. I started out with an assessment of $29.94, net $12,125. I am now at $32,934, net $18,184. To me, that is more than doubled. That was in October 2022. It's explained to me, and when we first started this whole thing way back in 2021, I have been arguing about this whole thing. I don't think this drain was necessary. The people in Harley and above, in concession 9, they all believed that it's necessary. Some of them had no drainage. Since I moved out there 51 years ago, there were most of these houses were not in Harley. The people built all these houses in Harley in damp, wet areas, and they had no drainage. And I understand that they needed a new drain, and so the branch D come in. But is that my responsibility? I mean, I can't see that. I am paying a very large assessment so that people in Harley can have drainage. And I don't mind it. I understand what my liability is. It's the water going underneath my property rather than on top of it. I understand that. I don't think we needed two pipes going through it. I only think we needed one. And before the two pipes, my assessment was a lot less. So you stick two pipes in there because you put another drain in there. You cleaned up and fixed up branch C so that you can bring all that extra water to my property. I don't get any drainage off of this. It doesn't drain my property at all. All the advantage I have from this drain is what's going underneath my property and coming out on Long Point Conservation and the open drain. So there's a closed drain. I have no catch basins. I have no way for the water on my property to get into this drain. I don't get any drain. Now, I talked to the engineer and the drainage supervisor. I've talked to them a couple times about this. And it was the first time I brought it up in a meeting. I had the advantage of putting in tile myself, hiring a contractor, running in tile, and getting into the drain. I don't need to do that. My property is draining down through the ground into the water table. We wait for that to happen, then we go on the field. That's been that way for the 51 years I've been there. Now, I can't understand why. I understand I have the liability for the water going under my property rather than on top of it. But that, to me, is not this kind of a benefit. I think my benefits are really overestimated since I'd get no drainage. And that's pretty well what I've done. I sent in my letter, and probably everybody here has received a copy of that. And so you all know what I'm talking about in that. Like I said, I believe one pipe system is good enough. And when you put the two pipe system in there, that just boosted up again, my assessment. And it's gone, like I said, net 12,000 to net 18,000 some odd. So, I mean, maybe it hasn't doubled, but 6,000 some odd dollars is an awful lot of money to me. So that's pretty well it for me. That's it for me. I sent my letter in and, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just for a moment, if there's any questions from the court for our landowner? All right, seeing none, we'll ask the engineers whether they have any final comments on this file.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just want to reiterate that the total estimated cost on this individual property is $230,000. And that is to get that water underground. Otherwise, it'd be running over the surface and there would be a ditch on Mr. Olerwood's property. So we looked at that and we assessed 13% of that $230,000 as benefit to that property by taking that water underground. Mr. Olerud has mentioned that he has the right to connect to it. Municipal drains are outlets. They are there for people to connect to. They carry water through properties. They give outlet for properties. And the other thing that Mr. Olerud talked about was the people up in Harley. Well, 87% of the cost of the works on his property is assessed to those folks upstream. So just reiterating what we had in our original slide. If there's any more questions.
Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Through you, can you just reiterate for us the rationale for going from one pipe to two?
Certainly. So in the original, when we had the original on-site meeting, we knew that there was an old pipe in there. And we always try to use those pipes if they are sufficient and of a quality that you don't have to repair them constantly.
Right.
So that's how we went through our first estimate and our first design of this system, using and utilizing the old drain. So putting in another pipe to augment it to come up with a design for a 1.5 inch drainage coefficient. That's what we worked to. And then after talking with the drainage superintendent and with Mr. Olerud, that pipe that's in there now is full of sand and it is not working and it's not cost effective to try to repair it and maintain it. So we went with a 2-pipe system to, again, take that 1.5 inch drainage coefficient through his property as best they can. So that meant the double pipe. So that's why the cost in our mind doubled on his property. Yet, if you look at the numbers, his assessments haven't doubled.
Follow up if I could, Madam Chair. Thank you. And through you, so Mr. Oldroyd doesn't feel that a second pipe is necessary. Can you speak to why you feel that it is?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, the engineer is required to take the drain to a sufficient outlet. So if we did not go through Mr. Olerud's property with a sufficient drain, we would be ended up letting the drain flood his property and cause damage to his property and those properties downstream of his. So it behooves the engineer to provide a proper drainage coefficient and put that water through that property.
One more if I could, thank you, through you. So I just want to be clear here. So from what Mr. Oldroyd was saying, prior to this, he does get water on his property, seeps into the ground, it's all good, goes into the water table. The pipe that's there right now, as you've stated a couple of times, it's not working as it should. So we feel that by adding a new pipe, that's still not going to be sufficient to take the water that is now coming down through this drain underground without having any of it come on top of ground, hence the having to have a second pipe in order to continue the flow underground. Is that a fair assessment?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, that's a fair assessment. Augmenting the original pipe, if the original pipe was working sufficiently, that's where we would have stopped. And when we found out it wasn't working and it wasn't worth putting more money into it, repairing it, digging it up, cleaning it out, right. Then we opted with a 2 pipe system. And that's carrying 1.5 inches of water, or 1.5 inches of rain that falls on the watershed in 24 hours. There still will be surface flow from time to time, like there is on any drain.
Right.
But this is what the standards are today under the Drainage Act.
I appreciate that. Now, both of these pipes are the same size, the new ones?
Yes, they're both 825 millimeter pipe.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further? Oh, Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a Imperial person, so you better tell me what that is, and how far is the twin pipe size tile?
So through the chair, 825 is 27 inch. 33 inch diameter pipe. So you have two 33-inch diameter pipe, and they cross right through the Oldroyd property. Yes.
So there's 313 meters on the Oldroyd property.
All right, thank you. Any further questions from members of the court? All right, so the members of the court are going to withdraw to the side room to deliberate on the appeals. The members of the public, you're welcome to wait in the room. If anyone does need the washroom, it's just through the door here on your right-hand side. Right. Thanks everyone for your patience. The court has returned. We have made our decisions, but we want to preface them before speaking to the specific files with some more general comments. We observed that there were only 2 appeals despite a very significant watershed and a number of properties impacted. So the court has interpreted this to mean broader public acceptance. Both of the work needs to be completed and with property assessments more generally. We all know that even if you're expecting a bill when it comes in higher than you'd planned for, there's always a shock to that, and we do want to acknowledge that the landowners that maybe wasn't in your plans, but you are here today with that concern. We also want to acknowledge that since this process started, construction costs have risen significantly, and that for factors beyond everyone's control in this room today, that has aggravated the situation. Our job as the court, though, is to determine fairness to all of the property owners. So with that in mind, we also approach this believing there to be value to properties even if they don't connect into the drains themselves. So speaking to the appeals we had today, we'll start with the first one. That's 261 Middletown Line Road. So the court is dismissing the appeal as the Drainage Act does not allow a property owner to opt out of petitioned works, and the owner still sees a value increase even if they choose not to connect to branch D of the drain. And with regards to our second appeal, that's 219 10th concession, the appeal is dismissed as the court is satisfied that the property's assessment was fairly assessed in relation to others in the watershed, noting that the property gains in significant benefit from the work being completed. So with that in mind, I will declare the Court of Revision for the Bennett Drain closed. Thank you.